Inequalities. And when you hear the word inequalities, the first thing that pops into your mind is?
We have to do work for once.
Yes, greater than or less than symbols. So it tells you things that are not equal. And I'm just going to throw some examples because we have done this before, and I know we've talked about it, but I don't remember how far we've done it. Right out of the book, if you have this, 1/3 n is less than 2. If you have that, first thing you remember, it's just like solving equations. Just like equations. The only problem is when you get, but you have to remember that the variable has to be on the left side. Unlike equations. Variable on the left, and the variable must be positive. Must be positive. So if I asked you, how would you solve this equation there? You would tell me that you need to do what, Kylie? How? Which is the same as multiplying by, yeah, flip and multiply. Multiply by 3/1, and then is less than 6. And then you can graph that. Which way does 0 go? To the side that's smaller than. That's all well and good. The problem usually comes when we have negative signs. How about this example? Negative x over 5 is less than or equal to 3. Thoughts on how to solve that? Again, when you're talking inequalities or equations, in order to get rid of things, you always do their opposite. So if I have negative x divided by 5, to get rid of a divided by 5 Dimitri Baumgarten, I would have to, sir, in order to get rid of a divided by 5, the opposite of dividing by is multiplying by. You multiply both sides by 5. This crosses off. Now I have a negative x less than or equal to 15. Here is where the problem comes in. I can change this to its opposite, and I can change this to its opposite, but you have to remember also to change the sign to its opposite. And believe it or not, the opposite of a less than or equal to is a greater than or equal to. Some people think that it's not equal to because the opposite of equal to is actually equal to, I guess. And not equal to, well, kind of. But the sign, if it's equal to, it's going to be equal to either way. So then when you graph this, it ends up being a closed circle at negative 15. Anybody, why is it closed? It's got the equal sign there. And which way is it going? Off and to the right. We did this before, didn't we not?
Yes.
So I hate to bore you or make you feel frightened or upset.
I don't really frightened.
I don't know, you just are. Let me give you one more. So I'll give you the test here. What about this? What if I have 3/8 is less than or equal to 1/2 minus 4x? I'm going to give you a second. You solve that for me. There are about 8 different ways that you could go wrong when you solve this. And the person that gets it right will get the ultimate prize. Congratulations. Kudos. Well done. Nice job. Well, I guess it doesn't work out even, does it? So I just kind of made it up in my head. You get a fraction for an answer?
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess that's probably the case.
It's kind of weird, actually.
No, it can't be too weird.
It's not too weird, it's just weird.
It can't be like, I'm guessing it's
It has a
something
one on
eight.
top of stuff.
Does it now? Are we done?
Yeah.
Let's check and see what we got for answers here. Let's see what our answers may or may not be. Who doesn't have an answer? You don't have an answer? You don't have an answer? Who does have an answer? Is it black or white, on or off? Dimitri, yes or no? You have an answer or no? Huh? No? Still working. The math in this is not difficult. Maybe the procedures and the processes are. And again, it's not hard, it's probably slightly confusing. Steph says,
X is greater than or equal to 1 over 30.
x is greater than or equal to what?
1 over 32.
1 over 32. Anybody in agreement to that? Oh, Kylie says,
Well, I have less than that, so.
you have less than, well, it's not the same thing if you have less than.
Well, I meant the same thing.
I need more answers out there. Alex, what'd you get? I did, Emma Kate?
I got negative 1 over 2, so I need to.
Greater than or less than?
Oh, great. No, less than.
Less than negative 1 over 32. Cal?
I
Interesting. Well, let's take this apart and do it because it's not, again, these are not hard things to do. It's adding and subtracting. What should be the first thing you do? Or what can be? There's a couple different ways to go about this. Jacob Ullman, what would you do? Get the x by itself. So what would you do? No, that would be, you can't do this until you've gotten rid of all this other stuff that's with it. Okay, you have to do addition and subtraction first. So I would suggest maybe you subtract 1/2. How many people subtracted a half first? Just a couple. But you don't have to. You can do it a couple different ways here. What do I get if I subtract 4/8 from 3/8? Negative 1/8. Now what? Steph?
Then I times negative 1 by not negative 1, just 1.
Why would you do that?
Because if you multiply something by the opposite thing, just.
So you're saying you got rid of
It
this?
was easier.
Did you say you're getting rid of this?
Yeah.
And you multiplied it by a negative?
No, not negative.
So you kept this negative. Alright, so Steph did this. She divided by 4. And when you divide by 4, that's the same thing as multiplying by 4, or 1/4. Just know that when I divide this by 4 over 1, I flip it over and multiply by 1/4. So now I have a negative 1 over 32 is less than or equal to a negative x. Correct? Now what? Based on the two rules, I said that x has to both be positive and be on the left side. You need to, Kylie?
First change everything into the opposites.
Alright, Kylie's saying let's change everything to its opposite. So now I get a positive 1 over 32, change this to its opposite, and change this to its opposite. Now, Kylie, how?
Let me do x is less than or equal to.
Right, you need to change the place. Remember, the alligator's eating the bigger one and is always going to eat the bigger one. So if you flip-flop the x and the 1 over 32, the sign also changes. So in fact, it should be x is less than or equal to 1 over 32. Now maybe it would have helped you to start that, do that right off the bat, and move this to this side and the 3/8 to the other side and change the sign. I don't know. You don't have to do it in this order. You do have to get rid of this first before you divide out to negative 1/4, just like in this equation. Let's try another one, because I can tell you're mesmerized by that. How about this? Negative 1/5 1/5 is greater than or equal to -1/2 x minus, I don't know, 3/10. Let's see where we end up with that. We've got a couple answers. All right, Jacob Wellman, what'd you get for an answer?
X is less than or equal to
Negative what?
1/5.
-1/5. Anybody else on the -1/5 bandwagon? Oh, Kyle?
X is greater than or equal to 1/5.
Very good. 1/5. Anybody else on that one? Kelly Knopf?
X is greater than or equal to -1/10.
-1/10. Anybody jumping on that one? Alex?
X is less than or equal to 3/5.
3/5. Anybody jumping on that one? Alright, let's start this out here. Alex, what's the first thing you did?
I added
Can't do that here. Again, people, the number that's in front of the x is the last thing you deal with. The last thing I'm going to do here is multiply it or somewhere along the line. You have to get rid of this addition, subtraction stuff first. So how many people added 3/10 first? Alright, well done. When you add 3/10, because you do the opposite, if you add 3/10 to a -2/10, you should have gotten 1/10, correct? Raise your hand if you were in the game at this point. How many people were in the game at that point? Okay, if you weren't in the game, I should ask you why you weren't in the game. How many people dealt with this first, inadvertently? Just you, Alex? All right, now what? Conclusional, what could I do now? What should I do?
Multiply by 2/1.
Okay, you can get rid of this by multiplying by 2/1. That makes the multiply by 2/1. And that gives you 1/5 is greater than or equal to -x. Raise your hand if you're still in the game. No, we're down to 2. Oh, we only have 4. Now what? Dimitri, what should I do now? I have this. The two things that are wrong is this is not positive, nor is it on the left side. I got to correct those two things. What should I do? Make the x positive, which means everything switches to its opposite. Still in the game? And then the last thing would be to flip places. X goes over here, negative 1/5 goes over there, sign flips as well. X is greater than or equal to 1/5, negative 1/5. Wait, that's not even on my board. Nobody said that to me. Who feels reasonably sure that they're still confused?
It's right there.
Oh, this one? But it's
The
opposite.
one below it.
But that's positive 1/5. Did I not write the negative? Should be negative, shouldn't it? Interesting.